If youth is wasted on the young, their diets certainly don't help. Between instant noodles, pizza for breakfast, and the deeply held belief that caffeine counts as hydration, the average 20-something's eating pattern isn't exactly optimized for healthy aging. But here's the twist. Science is beginning to suggest that what you put on your plate in your 20s and 30s might echo loudly into your 60s, 70s, and beyond. That greasy burger you crushed after a night out in college? It may have RSVP'd to your future inflammatory marker party. In fact, researchers are now asking a compelling question. Do early dietary habits predict how well you age decades later? The short answer seems to be yes, though it's a bit like planting a garden in your 20s without realizing you're the one who's going to live off it in your 70s. Studies from long-running cohorts like the Cardia, Coronary Artery Risk Development in Young Adults study and the Nurses' Health Study 2 have provided crucial insights into how diet quality before age 40 correlates with long-term health trajectories. What emerges from these datasets is that even subtle differences in food choices in early adulthood can have measurable impacts on aging biomarkers, chronic disease risk, and even functional mobility later in life. Let's start with the big picture. Chronic disease risk. Individuals who adhered to healthier diets, such as those scoring high on the Alternate Healthy Eating Index, AHEI, the DASH diet, or Mediterranean-style patterns, before the age of 40 were significantly less likely to develop hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease in their 50s and 60s. One particularly telling analysis found that every 10-point increase in AHEI score at age 30 was associated with a 17% lower risk of major chronic disease by age 60. Those who maintained high diet quality from early adulthood through midlife had the lowest risk of all. And it's not just about avoiding disease. It's also about aging biomarkers. Early diet patterns have been linked to lower levels of C-reactive protein, CRP, interleukin-6, IL-6, and homocysteine, all of which predict cardiovascular and neurodegenerative conditions. Researchers have also begun using epigenetic clocks, those fancy measures of biological rather than chronological age, and they're finding that poor diet quality in youth can literally age your cells faster, while better adherence to anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense diets slows the tick. But here's where it gets sneakily impressive. Early dietary patterns may influence metabolic set points that are remarkably difficult to shift later. For example, consistently high intake of sugar-sweetened beverages and refined carbs before age 40 has been shown to prime the body for insulin resistance, even in the absence of visible weight gain. Conversely, higher intake of fiber, whole grains, and omega-3 rich foods during the same period appears to support metabolic flexibility, which helps keep your blood sugar stable, your mitochondria humming, and your fat cells from going full rebel mode as you age. One of the more fascinating areas of research is how early diet relates to body composition changes in midlife. Adults with higher diet quality in young adulthood tend to maintain greater lean muscle mass and accumulate less visceral fat over time. This has serious implications for conditions like sarcopenia and frailty, which aren't just late-life problems. They often begin quietly in midlife, especially among those with poor early life nutrition and sedentary habits. Even cognitive resilience seems to have roots in early diet. Flavonoid-rich foods like berries, dark leafy greens, and tea, when consumed regularly in early adulthood, are associated with better cognitive performance decades later. Some researchers speculate that early diet may even affect brain structure, things like hippocampal volume and white matter integrity, setting a neurological foundation that's harder to rebuild later in life, no matter how many Sudoku puzzles you try. So, is it all doomed for the former drive-thru addicts? Not necessarily. One of the more hopeful findings is that dietary improvements at any age still make a difference, but starting earlier means fewer course corrections and more cumulative resilience. Think of it like compounding interest for your cells. The earlier you invest in nutrient density, the more cellular dividends you collect later. Waiting until your first statin prescription to rebrand yourself as a quinoa enthusiast? Still worth it, but you're making up for lost time and possibly irreversible metabolic shifts. Of course, there's nuance. Socioeconomic status, food access, education, and cultural factors all shape diet in young adulthood, and these influences don't vanish with age. That said, across populations, the core dietary pillars of healthy aging remain shockingly universal. More plants, less ultra-processing, fewer added sugars, and enough protein and healthy fats to keep tissues supported. The body, thankfully, seems to remember these patterns, good or bad, for decades. In short, the answer is yes. What you eat before age 40 matters. A lot. Your youthful body may seem invincible in the moment, pizza for breakfast, anyone? But it's quietly building the foundation for how you'll stand, think, and feel 40 years down the road. That smoothie you drank at May 26th not have made you feel immortal, but your 76-year-old knees might think otherwise. So whether you're a millennial staring down the barrel of midlife or a retiree thinking fondly of your diet soda phase, know this: your body remembers everything. And it's never too early or too late to give it something worth remembering.